Morning decisions. A creamy mocha frappuccino drink? A sweet vanilla? Maybe a smooth caramel or that white chocolate mocha. Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Start your day with bottled Starbucks Frappuccino drinks. Pick up a bottle near you wherever you buy your groceries.
Hey there, fictional friends, and welcome to another episode of Fully Booked. I'm Megan.
And I'm Arthur.
And it's the last week of February. Yay! We want the winter to be over. We had a ridiculous snowstorm like 2 weeks ago, and it's still not clean.
It won't be.
No. Right now, we're just waiting for the snow to melt. And I feel like maybe other people in our area would have, this like a similar feeling at this point.
Everyone was waiting for the snow to melt.
Everybody in Eastern Canada is just waiting for the snow to melt at this point. Anyway, so for the last week of February, we decided to treat ourselves a little bit and take ourselves to the movies.
Wow.
Hey, listen, new release tickets are expensive at this point.
I guess.
For weekend showings. So
Treat yourself.
It is like you're treating yourself. Anyway, we figured actually, you know what, it was very timely that the end of this month also coincided with the latest Stephen King adaptation release in theaters. So we decided that the cat's really excited about this episode. He really liked the movie that he didn't go see. Anyway, we figured that we would talk about the latest Stephen King adaptation from Osgood Perkins called The Monkey, which was just released on, February 21st?
Yeah, something like that.
Of 2025, so about a week ago when you're hearing this episode. We went to see it in theaters when it came out. Background a little bit on this. So The Monkey is a new release that is based on technically a 1980 short story by Stephen King. It was originally published in Gallery magazine in 1980. It was like a periodical, which is where a lot of his stuff was published in the 70s and 80s especially.
Was it him or Bachman?
No, it was him.
Him, okay.
And then was eventually it was revised after that time, and in 1985 it was published in his collection of his anthology collection Skeleton Crew.
Okay, yeah.
Which is also an anthology that contains The Mist, another very famous short story that's been adapted a couple of times now.
Yeah, there's only one good version.
Well, there's the movie and a TV show.
Movie's good.
Yeah, I don't remember hating the TV show when it came out.
That was okay.
It only lasted one season, but anyway, it wasn't bad. Essentially, the short story is a little bit more brief, obviously, than the film adaptation because, probably developed things a little bit less. But it does, at its core, follow a man named Hal Shelburne who is haunted and followed throughout the course of his life by this wind-up monkey toy with, cymbals that, clash together and make music, basically.
Different in the movie, but yeah.
I mean, that is what it does. You wind it up.
But the movie has a drum.
Oh, fuck, you're right. Oh, yeah. Okay, so this one says it has, I think it's cymbals.
They probably just changed it.
Yeah.
Because usually that those toys are symbols.
They are, yeah, you're right. That's true. So basically it follows, that's it, Hal, who goes from childhood through to adulthood, basically, kind of being haunted by the memory of this cursed toy.
Right.
And then, the effects that it has on him as an adult as well when he finds it again, or his son finds it again, and he continues to be haunted by it and by this curse that it seems to have bestowed upon him and his family. Basically, with his son and everything. So that's kind of the general sort of vibe of the actual short story itself. Let's see. At the time of recording, the film currently has a 6.5 out of 10 on IMDb and 79% on Rotten Tomatoes.
What about the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes?
60%.
60%? Mm-hmm. Audience is wrong.
Well, this is I always find this interesting to see when this happens, also because I feel like this movie is we're getting spooky in these last couple of weeks because we were talking about winter horror recommendations last week, and now we're talking about The Monkey, which it's a horror film, but you could also kind of look at it as the pitch blackest comedy you've seen in a while.
Oh yeah.
Too. I laughed a lot.
There was a lot of funny moments.
A lot during this. Unsurprisingly, I guess it has a very sort of campy feel to it almost, like right off the cuff, and a very sort of like madcap comedy kind of stylization to it. The film is directed and I believe written actually by Osgood Perkins or Oz Perkins, who, you know, kind of comes from like a horror background, I guess, to a degree. So
his family.
Yes, exactly. So his father was Anthony Perkins, who famously played Norman Bates in Psycho and its subsequent sequels as well. He played those in numerous different sequels, who passed away back in the 1990s, I believe, from AIDS-related complications, if I'm not mistaken, but he was a great actor. His mom, also Barry Berenson, was, I think, a photographer, a model, an actress also, and dipped, I think, her toe a little bit into horror too, because I think she starred in the original Cat People film back in the 1980s as well, which was like its own sort of like cult classic status now. Unfortunately, she passed away apparently in one of the planes on 9/11, which is really sad. But he's got like quite the lineage, Osgood Perkins, between Anthony Perkins, Barry Berenson, his grandfather, Osgood Perkins, I guess the first or senior, whatever, was an actor back in like the silent film era, it seems, who did a bunch of things. And it turns out that his maternal grandmother, and like not many people will be aware of this unless you like know anything about fashion, I guess, but his maternal grandmother was Elsa Schiaparelli, who was a very famous Italian designer who opened a very well-known fashion house in Paris, which continues to operate to this day. Wow. Yeah.
That's really
cool. If Shireen's listening, she'll know who I'm talking about. So yeah, anyway, just like a really interesting kind of like lineage there. But I guess like it just stood to reason that he would, I don't know, I guess people kind of expected him to start working within this kind of stuff. I mean, Osgood Perkins himself is like a director, and he's been working for quite a while as well as an actor too. Weirdly, when I first saw him show up as a director, I was like, oh, hey, that guy was in Legally Blonde. Because
that's what I was thinking.
He's David. He's the weird guy from Legally Blonde who plays one of like the associates at the law firm.
Yeah, I remember that.
That Elwood's has her internship at. So that's where I remember him from as somebody growing up in the early 2000s.
He has not changed that much.
Not really. He's like in his 50s now, but you wouldn't really notice the difference. He also has a cameo in this film as one of the characters. But he's also famously directed Blackcoat's Daughter, which I know is a bigger one in the horror sphere. I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House. And then I think he got a lot more acclaim last year for writing and directing Longlegs, which, you know, was a pretty big release also. Had its own kind of, I guess, quirks to it, but was like a much more serious and much scarier film and much more tense film.
Stylized also.
Yeah, in a different way. Like you can see some of the sort of style repeated to a degree in this, but this film takes on I don't know. I feel like I shouldn't describe it as zany, but that is kind of what it felt like.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway. So basically the I guess, overall plot of the film, I should say, follows Hal Shelburne. There's like a whole sort of, I guess, almost first half of the film that follows him as a child with his twin brother Bill when they discover this monkey toy like little drums that it plays. And I guess they don't accidentally start using it, but they start using it and realize very quickly that like it does crazy things when they do.
Well, I mean, they used it because it's a toy, so they wound it up. And they didn't know what was going to happen. And something happened and then realized it. But then the main character used it with, I guess, some kind of theory.
Well, he uses it also... He uses it with, like, malice aforethought in mind, right?
No, but he thought that this is what's going to happen. But he didn't know. And then he learned that what he thought was going to happen is what it does, is that it's going to kill someone. But he thought he could control who it kills, but you can't.
Yeah, they both think that. So Hal and Bill are twins, and they both have this kind of theory that like, oh, maybe if I...
But only later.
Because
when he was young, he did it, and it didn't work.
He did try it with the thought in mind as well.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, he did it, and then it didn't work in what he wanted it to be, and then only later, like whatever it was, 25 or 9 years, whatever it is,
it's like
then it's the twin brother that started doing it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't working, so it wasn't right away.
No, but I mean, like, it's weird because they both have the same thought, just at different times, essentially. So there's like a mixture that's it of like sort of flashbacks combined with like present day essentially for Hal, where he's, you know, as children after discovering this toy in their father's old stuff. And again, we learn right at the beginning of the film what's happened, but they are under the impression, along with their mother, that their father walked out on them.
Yeah.
However, that's not the case because the cold open of the film shows their dad, played by Adam Scott, actually.
That was a great cold open.
Yeah. Go into a pawn shop and try to get rid of the monkey. And through like a very Final Destination-y feeling like series of events because of the monkey being wound up and playing its little tune on the drum, it winds up killing the pawn shop owner and the dad as well. But of course, the family never knew what happened to him, so they thought he up and left.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the kids were, raised by their mom until she passes away, essentially, again, because of like misuse of the monkey, basically. I should have prefaced this with a big spoiler alert. Guess what? We're going to talk about the plot of the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway. After sort of a series of tons of different unfortunate events and consequences because of the kids using this monkey and trying to get a particular outcome out of it, they throw it down a well on the property that they're living on and then kind of go about their business and age and stop communicating with one another. And when we flash forward to present day, Hal has sort of isolated himself from everyone else, and he does have a son with his ex-girlfriend, wife, whatever, but barely sees him because he always feels as though anyone in his presence is like in danger in some capacity.
Yeah, anyone that he's related to.
But who's around him for a long period of time is automatically in danger because he just always feels the presence of the monkey, what it means and what it will mean for it to maybe return, even if he doesn't, you know, actively go looking for it anyway.
Yeah.
I don't want to get too much into like, I know we're talking about spoilers, but I don't want to get too much into like the specifics of like the full plot of the film.
You gotta let the people enjoy it.
Kind of, yeah. Like, because there is a lot to it too. Like, there's a ton, obviously, in the messaging to do with, like, you know, wanting to escape your past and, like, you know, potentially, like, ignore kind of, like, some of the history of your life. The idea of being connected to your family even when you don't want to be necessarily, and a lot of those aspects of things because of the estrangement, particularly between the brothers, right, between Hal and Bill. You're given to kind of see, I guess, two different versions from the adult versions of the characters, what it's like, how both of them have been affected by their past and by their interaction with this monkey, like what it's done to both of them in totally different ways, right? Where Hal has fully isolated himself, and I guess to a degree Bill has as well, but Bill's gone like into like he has a much more vindictive mindset about the whole thing.
He always was like that though. Like even when they were young, they showed that their characters were very, very, very different.
Yeah, he's like always been. He's I guess kind of like the shitbird of the two of them.
Exactly, very forceful, very like and
like cruel, sort of like
exactly,
just purposefully
and do whatever he needs to get shit done.
Purposefully mean, picks on his brother a lot, and is like not kind to him in any way, shape, or form on a regular basis, even in very serious situations, tends to just like kind of turn things on him or make like a really stupid joke and things. And I guess like you see that those characteristics in both of them because Hal is the more sort of quiet, introspective one of the two of them and the more sensitive one. And I think you do see all of those qualities in each of them as adults, but I guess they're just amplified in a way,
sense.
You know?
Yeah. I would need to watch that movie because I was just paying attention to the funny and the kills. The thematics, I need to rewatch it again to catch again.
Yeah, it's a little, it is a little bit tricky, especially when you're only seeing a movie one time, obviously, because we saw it in theaters, so we've only seen it the one time, and now we're sitting down to record, so it's a little bit different in that way. And when you watch a film multiple times, or even just watching it at home, because you're able to kind of like pause and maybe reflect on certain things, it changes your perspective about a lot of it. Whereas I feel like the majority of times, anyway, not always, but the majority of times with a lot of films, we're watching them the first time going into them and just like watching them for the entertainment value of it, right? Unless the film is like very heavy and deals with very heavy topics right in your face, like right off the bat, and they're not covered by any other sort of themes. You don't always catch as much as you will either on a rewatch or just watching something at home. Okay. Well, I mean, I guess we can talk about the kills a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, the kills in this movie are wild. Again, this is why, I mean, there's a sense when you're watching the movie that the movie doesn't feel very realistic while you're watching it, obviously, which I think is part of the point, obviously. And I feel like it's not every aspect of it. What I'm saying is that like the kills lend themselves very well to the more like almost slapsticky kind of like comedic element of some of the film, because
I think they were the comedic element of the film.
Yeah, I think so.
You're supposed to be jarred by it, but then you're also laughing because it's just what the
so,
hell just happened?
Yeah,
it's so insane.
Every single person, like almost every character that dies somehow manages to basically explode while they're dying.
Somehow.
Yeah, I mean, there's at least like 3 of them that you're like, whoa. Or like that's it there. The way that they die is just so like over the top, basically.
Like the one in the pool. That was in the trailer, so that's not a big spoiler, but the one in the pool where...
Yeah, that's true.
Like the water is electrified. And then
you don't see the kill in the trailer, but yeah, there is.
Yeah, she jumps. Yeah. She's about to jump in the pool, and she's like midair. So like, oh, she's gonna fall and get electrocuted. Yeah. But then the moment she touches the water, the body just explodes into a million pieces, which is so insane.
And like launches body parts everywhere.
It's so funny.
And it's funny because like, I mean, this would be one of those that I guess on its surface, I would be like, oh, people who are squeamish shouldn't watch this movie. And like, there are elements of that are maybe true, but I think because part of it is so absurdist, it almost doesn't matter. You kind of gloss over a lot of that and then wind up just enjoying the rest of the film simply because it's almost so silly when you're watching it. But that's what wound up happening. Like we were watching the movie and these kills would happen and we would burst out laughing because they were so ridiculous and so funny.
Yeah, there's not even that much gore, really, per se.
That's not that bad.
And in the little snippet of the interview that they showed with the director and the main character,
yes.
Osgood Perkins was saying that he was kind of disappointed a little bit when they were doing the test screening because people were laughing during the kills so much that they would be missing the jokes that would come right after.
Yeah.
And it was actually the case in the movie because like you had to pay attention. There was some kind of subtle funny jokes or like just the way that something is filmed or someone says something or their reaction that it makes it even more funnier.
Mm-hmm. I always find, and this is something this is incredibly specific, and I'm going to go on like a tangent a little bit, but this is something that's incredibly specific for us. But I always find it interesting for us, really, because we live in an area of Canada that's largely French-speaking, which isn't the case for the majority of the country, but it is where we are. And that's not to say that, like, people who speak French here don't speak English or don't go see films in English. They do all the time. It's very common. But I do find that there must be a difference, and this is something I've noticed, like, multiple times when we've gone to see a film and have, whether it's a comedy or not, but there are comedic elements to it, and have like laughed so many times in the film.
Yeah.
It often feels like we're some of the only people in that movie theater laughing. And I do feel like there's kind of like a language barrier in that sense that I'm sure I maybe wouldn't notice if we lived in a different area, but that is sort of like, that's kind of what you experience here, being a mostly English-speaking person in an area in which English isn't the predominant language, is that you go to see any kind of movie and you're sitting there and you're like teeing your way through the whole thing, and then you kind of eventually pick up on the fact that a lot of people aren't necessarily grabbing all of that. And I imagine it's the same thing with everyone, right? There must be a ton of foreign films that you and I have watched that there are probably certain jokes that are not funny to us or that we maybe haven't picked up on, even when reading subtitles or whatever the situation might be, because it doesn't translate that well, or it doesn't, like, culturally, it doesn't really hit us in the same way that it will for people who are like maybe more accustomed to it. So it's just like an interesting thing to see. But I would be curious to see some of this stuff sometimes in like with a different audience, just to see like what the differences
It's either that
are.
or people are just so astonished by what they're seeing that they can't process it.
It's possible. Maybe this was part of it. I mean, like, to be fair, because also the thing is like the I guess shocking moments of the film, so like the kills and things like that, they're very quick.
Yes.
Like, yes, you know that they're coming, but a lot of them anyway are very fast. They're kind of there and they're gone, and then we move on to the next thing. Like, there is no. That's also why, like, I think like your comment about it not being super gory is kind of correct, because like you might in your head you can't help but be tricked into being like, oh my god, what a gory film, because like a bunch of people die in a very violent way, but there's no lingering on the death.
No, not at all.
It's like it happens, is jarring, on to the next, and that's it. And we're on to the next scene. We're moving on.
Because the main character wants to get out of that situation as fast as possible.
Yeah, so he is kind of like an audience surrogate in the sense that he's like, nope, bye.
Yeah,
Just doesn't want to be there anymore. Theo James did such a great job.
It was great because he did both characters.
Yeah, so he
too,
plays Hal and
incredible.
Bill. Yeah, he plays Hal and Bill. Also, the kid who I don't know the name of the actor, but the kid who played the twins also did a very good job.
Yes.
I believe that was also one child playing both of those twins, if I'm not mistaken. So also great, very funny, a very good job. Yeah, I think that's part of what makes it work as well, is that even though some of the lines are so funny and everything, you have a ton of characters who are delivering them with such like conviction.
Well, yeah.
That you can't help but also kind of chuckle along with that as well. I mean, there are like multiple characters in the movie who are pretty funny from like start to finish, you know. After the boys' mom passes away, they go to live with their aunt and uncle, and their uncle is the character who's played by Osgood Perkins, who is also Uncle Chip, I think.
So?
I believe so. Who's very funny also, like ridiculous mutton chops.
Huge.
It's 19. Oh, he's quite tall. 70 style mutton chops, ridiculous, like American flags all over the place. I don't know how else to describe this character, but he's ridiculous. He's insane, and his death is off screen, isn't it? We don't see his. They just mention that they turn the monkey, and then he's dead in the next scene.
No, we show it. That's the only part that is very gory, and even you were like, ew. Because he got trampled by horses in a sleeping bag, and then they open it, and it's just like slush.
Oh my god, and he's just like slush meat. Oh god, I forgot about that.
That's the only part that was gross.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, I think that's partially, maybe it's partially why you can't help but laugh, because again, the deaths, like the causes of death are so absurd in a lot of the cases that you can't have, like, you know, there's a character towards the end of the film who accidentally shoots a wasp's nest, and every single wasp from the nest proceeds to fly into his mouth and down his throat to murder him. Like, it's wild. It doesn't make any sense. And that's kind of why you go along with the absurdity of it. Weirdly, I did also like which is like not always a thing, because sometimes kid characters in movies are very annoying. But the son, Petey, his son, is actually pretty funny. The kid was very deadpan in his delivery about things, but I kind of appreciated it because it had just enough preteen sass to it that I believed it. I was like, yeah. Oh my god, who else? Elijah Wood has a cameo in the film.
Oh god, I forgot about
He's
that.
in like one scene.
He's so funny. Way too energetic for his character.
Oh my god, he was hilarious playing the stepfather, essentially, of to Petey. And I guess Hal's like not competition particularly, because they're completely different people, but you know, like
in a sense.
In a way that's in any way, because they would like to adopt Petey permanently and basically take him away from Hal, so that's like its own thing. But the just all of the little aspects of things, and all of the very small funny moments throughout the film that
like
kind
that
of
sign. I'm sure like half the people did not catch it when they get into the town, when they're going to live with their aunt and uncle.
Mm-hmm. Oh, like and home to its locals.
Yeah, exactly. Home to its locals. I died when I saw that.
Well, that's it, exactly.
And it was just quiet in the movie.
This is what I'm saying. We burst out laughing, and I was like, oh, no one else is laughing. Those are the moments that you are never prepared for when you find something funny and no one else finds funny. Like when you tell a joke.
In a horror movie.
Well, and like when you tell a joke but no one gets it and it falls flat because no one understands the reference that you're making. People know what I'm talking about. It happens. It's very frustrating and very embarrassing. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, God, I don't even know. I'm like, that's it. I don't want to get too much into like the major plot points or give away maybe the ending of it because I feel like that would really spoil a lot.
Plus, there's a great death at the end.
Yeah, like there's a good death at the end. There's a lot of good like fun things to do with like the brothers and like kind of that's it. People coming back together again. The power that maybe like people can assert over one another in childhood, but even into adulthood as well. Like even when you think you've separated yourself from a particular kind of relationship, you fall back into it. Yeah. And those sorts of ideas, and the idea of that's it, separating oneself from their family and their past, trying to protect someone, but going about it in the complete wrong way.
Wow, you're getting very philosophical.
Well, I mean, I'm trying to touch on like a lot of the different points, but I'm just saying that like I find, as is often the case, especially with adaptations, if they're based on good source material, yes. Which oftentimes they are, honestly, even if the adaptation isn't great, a lot of the times the source material is quite good. It's easy to find a lot of themes within a story. I
mean, yeah, you can look at it and find a lot of stuff. This one specifically, there was also the whole thing of you can't control death, and this is something that happens.
Yeah,
it could happen to anyone. It could have happened when you're young, you're old.
And that
random and whatever.
Yeah, and that trying to control it and trying to force it will only bring destruction.
Exactly.
Essentially,
yeah.
which is
what happens.
It's the crux of what happens really in the story.
Also, while I was watching it, I could not think that this was basically. I know it's not obviously, but it was like basically Final Destination.
Well, that's what
funny.
There were.
There was so many of those moments that I was thinking, I'm like, okay, this is like a Final Destination moment because that's kind of how I guess it happens in the deaths and everything. But yeah, I couldn't just bring myself out of it.
Oh, definitely. No. There were definitely some moments, particularly with like that's at the build ups to the different deaths that happen throughout the film that do feel like that because it's a small inciting something that causes a chain reaction, which leads to the death of a character, which is often, especially in like the first couple of Final Destination films, that's what you see, right? It's someone knocks into something or it starts raining or something happens and it triggers something small and then bigger and then bigger and then that leads to a character dying. That's pretty much what those films are. And of course, that's supposed to be, again, it's the same kind of theme, right? Because it's supposed to be death and people trying to outsmart it in some capacity.
That's why I thought there was like a very interesting parallel.
Yeah.
But Final Destination is like, it was good. Some of them were bad, but now it's kind of like a cult following thing. And this is a different take on it. Very different. Mm-hmm. But I think this one's better.
I mean, I agree.
They could keep making movies of the monkey.
That is true.
And I would watch it. Please don't do it.
No, don't ruin this. Don't do it. But it could get passed off to other people or whatever the case may be. It would be very easy to do that. I was so pleasantly surprised. And like all of his films have been different, Osgood Perkins. So I guess I'm not shocked, but I was pleasantly surprised at how different it was from like Long Legs, for instance, which is like different. His more recent film that we've watched, which like I said, I think for me, the thing with Long Legs is how tense that film was, especially in like the latter third of the movie as things are starting to like wrap up. Yeah. And we're getting to a point of a climax and an understanding of everything and a resolution and like following the lead character as she's dealing with everything. Not that you don't have that in this, but it felt very different.
No, there was no like the main character in Long Legs is creepy as hell and he is the one building the tension
as well.
Oh, no, I'm talking about the killer.
He's not the main character.
He's the main villain.
Fine.
That.
Nicolas Cage is who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, Micah Monroe was great in that film. She's so good. He gets really good performances out of people. I don't know. I don't know if there's anything else really to like cover about it, but it was super fun from start to finish. Part of me kind of wants to read the short story just because I'd be curious to see like some of what was maybe translated into the film, just to see like the elements that you can kind of find on both sides of things.
Yeah, that's it. The most important question is to you: would you turn the key?
No.
No, not at all.
Absolutely.
Right away, no.
Absolutely not. Okay. No, you won't catch me messing around with anything like that. That's crazy.
But the one who turns the key doesn't die.
It doesn't matter. I don't want to kill anyone else.
Fair.
Yeah, I don't have anybody that I'd like to murder, so that's a very easy answer to a question. Even so, why would I want to kill a stranger? That's weird.
I guess the whole movie, if you see it in that way, is that if they did not turn the key, would it have happened?
You mean, would it have happened anyway? Like, would the deaths have occurred?
Because the whole point of the movie is that death is random and it just happens.
Maybe it would have, but perhaps not in that way.
Yes.
Or to those people at the specific times
That's
at which
it, exactly,
it happened.
yeah. But
because
still.
that's the whole idea of the randomness of it, right? So
Yeah.
maybe not.
Interesting theory.
Well, that's the thing, right? Is that we'll never know. I don't think there's an answer to that.
No, of course, there's no question. But there's no answer to that. But I mean, it's just an interesting thought
Yeah.
game
Yeah. No, it
to
is.
think of.
Anyway, we thought this was super fun. I loved it. I'm glad that we got to see it right after it came out because it gave us a really good excuse to go watch it.
It was great.
Yeah.
This is one of those, like, I want to buy the Blu-ray.
Yeah, you want it.
And have it. And I want to see the behind the scenes and everything. Like,
Yeah.
it's great.
Yeah, that seems like it's just like a really fun film. Even if you're not looking for the kinds of themes that I'm looking for, it's just a fun film to go into. So
That's it.
Anyway, we're heading into March next week. Hopefully spring, but also a new theme. Yay, we're doing a theme for you guys next month. So look forward to that because we're getting into something, I don't know, semi-dark, a little bit dark. We're exploring a particular kind of character, and that is all I will say.
I remember now because I completely forgot.
Yeah, you did.
And now I remember.
Anyway, that's all I will say for the month of March, but I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait for us to start chatting through all of that stuff. It's going to be fun. So anyway, until that time, obviously feel free to head over to the website, fullybooked.ca, and check out all of the coverage that we have on a regular basis for all sorts of different topics all the time.
The ARC reviews that we do.
Our reviews for all of our ARCs that we've been lucky enough to have access to recently.
Thank you, Blackstone Publishing.
Oh, yeah, we love you guys. You guys are great. Obviously, you can sign up for the newsletter over there where you're going to get, weekly kind of breakdown of all that stuff anyway, which will give you easy access to all of the newest and latest articles that we've been publishing and some book news at the same time. Definitely feel free to follow us on any social media platform. So, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, Blue Sky,
all the usual stuff. It's on their homepage.
Fullybooked.ca, obviously. And then I don't think I have anything else. Do you have anything else?
That's it.
All right.
Keep on reading.
We'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Ciao, guys.
First decision of the morning. A creamy mocha frappuccino drink? Or will we ease into the day with a sweet vanilla? Maybe a smooth caramel? Ooh, what about that white chocolate mocha? No matter which flavor you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Better coffee starts a better day. Start with bottled Starbucks Frappuccino drinks. Pick up a bottle near you wherever you buy your groceries.